Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea Fountain and welcome to my interactive week 4 group presentation for biochemistry. And for this presentation, I will walk you through the steps that involve generating the acetyl CO enzyme A from pyruvate. Excuse me if I mispronounce some of these words. So when thinking about the steps, we have to first begin and understand the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. So there are 4 steps to that process, and then within those 4 steps, there are 3 steps that will form the acetyl CO enzyme A complex. So we will first begin by understanding the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, which consists of 3 different enzymes, and it has 5 different coenzymes. So the enzyme number 1 is the pyruvate, or E1, is the pyruvate dehydrogenase, which catalyzes the first step. The first step to us generating that acetyl CO enzyme A. And so the enzyme 1 is that process, which includes step 1, which is decarbonization, and then step 2, which is the oxidation reduction step. And those are the 2 steps that I will talk about in this presentation. So enzyme number 2 is the hydrolipoid transacetase, which catalyzes the transfer of the acetyl group that was formed in the first 2 steps. So in order to create the acetyl group, there will be a transfer of enzymes and electrons that I will get to later. So, where am I? So this is part of the enzyme number 2, which is very important, and it will be part of the 2 steps, which are decarbonization and oxidation reduction onto CO enzyme A to then form the acetyl CO enzyme A complex. And then lastly, we have the enzyme number 3, E3, which is the dihydrolipoid dehydrogenase, which reforms the oxidized version of the lipomate and generates the NADH molecule. So that is just understanding the 3 enzymes that is a part of this complex to the goal of this presentation, which is to tell you how to generate that acetyl CO enzyme complex. So the 5 coenzymes is the TPP diamine pyphosphate, and then you have number 2, which is that lipoic acid lipomide sorry, and then you have the FAD, and of course the CO enzyme A, and then the NAD plus. And these are all of our 5 coenzymes that is crucial in the formation of that acetyl CO enzyme complex, A complex. Okay, so let's get into the steps of the assignment, which is it will take 3 steps to form or to generate our acetyl CoA complex, enzyme complex. And the first step is our decarbonization, and this will contain our TPP. Here is our structure of the TPP, and the TPP will attach onto the pyruvate, and here is the pyruvate. And so when the TPP attaches to the pyruvate, you will have 2 hydrogen ions that will have to be, one is being used somewhere else, and then the other is also being used, and then the one is being used from the hydrolyl group, and then one is actually being attached to a carbon. So once we have these two, then we form the I'm so sorry for pronouncing this, hydroazyl TPP complex, and it will generate our CO2. So step 2 is the oxidation reduction, and once we form this complex here, then our step 2 would begin to form. And so we have our structure here of once they have come together, and we realize that one of the molecules from our structure here is being oxidized, and the lipomate is the oxidizing agent. And so this becomes the reducing agent, and some of the electrons here will be given to the lipomate. So you see here you have some extra electrons that are there, but then this structure of course will then be reduced, and then those electrons that were given to the lipomate will be given to our NAD+. And then we move on to step 3. So with the structures here together, we take the hydroazyl TPP complex. It then reacts with our lipomate structure, and it will form here our acetyl lipomate group or complex, which is where our TPP kind of regenerated in order for us to create this structure. And so from our structure here, I did a little squiggly line to kind of give me ability to reference back to that it will transfer onto the coenzyme A in this third step of the hydropole transacetase from E2, from that enzyme that we went over before. So that allows the transfer of this group here to go on to that enzyme A, which then allows us to activate or generate acetyl coenzyme A, and that's when we get this structure here with our compounds, and then this is how it's formed. Excuse me for not pronouncing most of the words correctly. It is a challenge, but I do hope you all enjoy my presentation, and I hope I was able to thoroughly go through how we get the 3 steps to generate our acetyl-CoA enzyme A from pyruvate. Thank you so much.